Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Barcelona, city of sunshine, beach, and hot weather. I apologize for the sub-zero temperatures we have been experiencing these days. Now, it's my pleasure to have you all here to this entire week on Femtocell networks, which has been co-organized by the BeFEMTO project, Freedom project, and also GreenNet project. We have some outstanding speakers throughout the day, throughout the week. I hope you're going to enjoy this week. I encourage you to be active, to ask questions. Otherwise, there's no way we can survive that week. So just, be as proactive as possible. If you don't understand something, just interrupt and ask. That is not a normal conference. That is a Femto school. So you have all the right just to raise your hand and ask questions. Now, a few logistical issues. So we have 4 talks every day. We start today with Thierry. I'll come to that in a second. Then we have a coffee break. Then there's a lunch break, and some CTTC people will guide you to the place we're going to be eating. I'll give you a ticket once you arrive, actually, to the cash point. Then we have in the afternoon again a talk and another coffee break. On Tuesday and on Wednesday, in the coffee breaks in the afternoons, we will have a poster session. So most likely the poster people will put up the posters outside and where the coffee break is. So you are free to talk to them, interact with them, give advices, ask questions. So that's about it. We have a very light social on Wednesday, and the real thing on Thursday night. So the real thing is will be picked up with the bus, go to the castle. We have a welcome with the mayor. We go to the beach. There's going to be some food, some good food, and then there's wild party close to the clubs in Castelldefels. Now, coming to the serious business, it's my great pleasure to have Thierry here. Thierry, apart from being the technical coordinator and the leader of the BeFEMTO project, he has seen it all in our community. Almost 20 years of experience in wireless communications. He's part of the CTO office of Sagem.com. So he's the technology and innovation manager of Sagem.com. He has published several books, loads of papers, has been through various industries, so Sagem.com is not his first place he's been to. If somebody knows anything about femtocells and wireless, that is Thierry. So thank you very much, Thierry, for being here today, and we're looking forward to your talk today. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Misha, for this high introduction. Okay, definitely, I get the pressure on my shoulders now. Okay, definitely. So, again, thanks everybody for joining this winter school this morning. Okay, especially this, quite early session. Okay, at least for myself, I will say. I guess, depending on the presentation today and the rest of the week, I'm afraid I will be maybe the only one which is not very technical. Okay, definitely. So the point of the discussion this morning, within this presentation, is really trying to give you, a bigger picture. Okay, about femtocell, small cell, that's very interesting. Okay, for all the geeks people. Okay, but behind that, there is still some money. Okay, to earn from that. Okay, there is some markets, multiple ones. Okay, so we'll see very roughly, some trends. Okay, about numbers. Okay, what is going on out there. Okay, and the intention for my presentation is really, again, to give you the bigger picture. Okay, but to demonstrate that femto and small cell, okay, are part of something. Okay, but they are not isolated. Okay, you are not isolated. Okay, and femto and small cell neither. Okay. And especially, since Misha emphasized that, okay, I get the chance, let's say that I'm lucky enough to coordinate the BeFEMTO project. Okay, so it's been a great experience so far. Okay, and BeFEMTO is really, let's say, targeting and focusing on LTE and beyond. Okay, so I will, via this way, I will try, to also give you, a fairly status of what is going on out there also in terms of LTE status, okay, in terms of market deployments and devices, because at the end of the day, femtos, especially femtocell, this is part of CPE, okay, this is customer premise equipment, okay, so I do believe this is interesting to see that this is part of something going on out there in terms of devices, okay, and you will see that LTE is very innovative for device generation and deployment. Okay, well, let's start with the business, as Misha mentioned. Okay, this is the outline. Okay, so as I said, I will try to explain the rationale behind the BeFEMTO project, because anyway, this is the rationale behind every R&D project related with femto and small cell. Okay, and this has been the starting point of the BeFEMTO project. Okay, and it will be related anyway with what is beyond femtocell and small cell as well. We will see at the end of the presentation what we call the 6 challenges. Okay, the small intelligent cross cell. Okay, and also, as I mentioned, we'll try to investigate what are the kind of industry forums, alliances that are related with femto and small cell. And I do know that this afternoon you will get an outstanding presentation from Interdigital, okay, about Femto Forum. You get quite lucky, I mean, to get this presentation. So please attend it and ask a lot of questions, okay, because Prabhakar here, I mean, is the champion of interworking Wi-Fi Femto and Vice Chair Working Group 3. Okay, so this is quite a chance for you, I mean, to interact, okay, with him and this great company, Interdigital. Okay, so let's start slightly more. What is behind BeFEMTO project and the next generation femtocell? Okay, so this is something, well, which is quite fairly known, okay, so far. Okay, the mobile broadband experience with the world connected life, okay, at home, on the move, okay, or at work. So that means you can be connected, I mean, every time and everywhere with your relatives, okay, with different communities of friends, more or less close, okay, close friends or just communities, okay. And you can be connected to the company or to the server of the company or with your colleagues, whatever, okay. So basically, you are always on, okay. Like LTE, well, you are always on, definitely. And this is something that we are all experiencing nowadays more and more frequently since a couple of years, especially thanks to smartphones, I would say. On the right, you get a very small, but I think good sample of what is the social media conversations. Okay, as you could see, well, this is just a sample. Okay, it's not for me. Okay, this is a nice picture, a lot of colors. Okay, as you could see, I mean, there are a lot of application services definitely related with social network. Social network is everywhere. Okay, so you get many applications used by many people, and all that definitely, I mean, is generating a lot of traffic. Okay, so there is a growth in terms of traffic demand, okay, for data, which is outstanding, which is really huge. Okay, it's not only coming; it's already there. Okay, I'm sure that you all have read, I mean, a lot of press release about, okay, the saturation of 3G networks as soon as we have introduced, I mean, iPhone, for instance, at the very beginning. Okay, so this is something that we need to address. Okay, definitely, not only for the 3G, LTE also. Okay, so LTE can be seen as, let's say, a bit of oxygen for some older cellular networks. Okay, but this is not only that, hopefully. Okay. And in terms of traffic generated, I mean, this is just another example in terms of device, again, okay, devices are very, I mean, the keystone of the next generation, I mean, cellular networks. So in terms of devices, as you could see, I mean, smartphone is already like 24 times in terms of traffic generated, I mean, a usual handset. Okay, if you go to, well, a tablet, okay, let's call it like this, okay, mobile tablets, because nowadays you get a bit more, it's like already 122 times, I mean, a usual handset. And no need to mention that if you take a laptop, it's already more than 500 times the traffic generated, okay, compared with a usual handset. So all that together, I mean, definitely you can feel that this is really happening, okay, and that's what is coming. So you can call it, I mean, data flooding, okay, whatever. You know, I'm not going to use other words, I mean, lately. Okay, this is really impacting, okay, the policy and the strategy of operators. Okay, so on one hand, that's very good for us at the end of the day, because that means, well, that means you can ship a lot of devices. Okay, that means the demand from the customer is really there compared with 3G initially. Okay, so now it's already there. Everybody wants, okay, to eat, let's say, a lot of data. Okay, to generate a lot of data. Okay, but we need to take that into account for the dimensioning itself. Okay, so what we need also to take into account for, well, next generation, I mean, small cell, okay, and networks, is definitely the user behavior, okay? And as you could see, this is just an example from, I mean, as the name indicates, text communication in the US, okay? So on the left, on the left side, I mean, you get like the, well, between 15 and 24 years old, okay? So definitely not my generation. And on the right side, well, this is me, okay, mostly, okay? And as you could see, I mean, depending, again, on the communities, okay, like close friends, well, grandparents, okay, children, well, children only have 15, 24, okay, you can, well, it happens, okay, business-related authorities, okay, you can see that they are using all these people are using different way of communicating, okay? And what is interesting from this picture is that, let's say, old generation like me, okay, we are mostly using email, okay? So the email is one of the, well, major communication way, okay? But of course, we are using also other communicating, means, okay? But for younger generations, so I guess like you, okay, you are using mostly everything, okay? So you can really switch, okay, depending whatever, okay, on the connectivity, on the quality, okay? You can use, social network, okay, MSN chat, email, or SMS, okay? And this is really important because that means you will need to take into account the diversity, okay, of the different communications, okay, of the traffic behavior, because behind that means the traffic generated is totally different, okay? The modeling of the traffic is totally different. The impact on the network is different, okay? And of course, the mix of users needs to be taken into account, okay? And we'll see later on that this is really important for especially small cell heterogeneous networks and next generation networks. So this is just another example, again, about this, okay, traffic growth and the user behavior, okay? So this is a smartphone non-voice usage, because of course, lately, one important factor is that, well, voice is not definitely the most interesting part, okay, of the traffic, okay? There are many, many more, as I mentioned just before, okay, with SMS, of course, but with, okay, internet or social networks. And this is just in the morning, okay, well, at bed, let's say, or early morning, okay, what people are doing, okay, in different part of the world, okay? And we can say, okay, music is really leading this is the game here, okay? But we'll see later on that video, of course, is driving this traffic demand, okay? So you get music, internet games, SMS, email, so again, a lot of different traffic, which means from the core network, you need to take that into account as well, okay? In terms of quality of service, so PCRF, for instance, for the LTE, or in terms of bidding, well, I guess you might know, okay, the deep packet inspection, for instance, to sort out all the different traffic. Okay, I'm sure people might speak about that, better than me, this week, okay, about the technical details. Okay, but this is important again for the operator, okay, because you get all the statistics of different traffic, and then you can really optimize, well, again, the traffic load within your core network or within the RAN, okay, the radio access part, and of course you can optimize the bidding as well, okay. Well, I will skip that, quickly. Again, this is just a summary, a kind of synthesis of this huge traffic growth, okay, with a bit of more European, let's say, example here, okay, with UK. So there is always this big debate between, let's say, the high volume, which is really growing, and the revenue of the mobile broadband, which is allegedly flattening, okay? So there is a big debate. I'm not going to enter into that because at the end of the day, it all depends on the business model, okay, of the operator. So there is a huge debate, but frankly speaking, at the end of the day, operators, they always manage a way, to be beneficial, okay, with all the traffic, okay? And LTE, LTA, and next generation networks are really giving some sandbox, tools for operators to get even more beneficial, okay? So here again, it's different behavior depending on the country in Europe. And one interesting part, of course, is this daily traffic consumption in Europe, okay? Because this impact definitely the dimensioning, okay, the rules for provisioning the network, okay? You always get this peak hour, okay, when people are coming back from the work, for instance, okay, at home, or in the very early morning as well, okay? And this, of course, again, impacts the traffic and the dimensioning of your network. And there are many new rules basically to design right now for LTE, LTA, and especially small cell. And we'll see that, later on when we'll discuss very briefly about the backhaul. Okay, but I'm sure, in Freedom Project, okay, they're addressing the backhaul issues, and BeFEMTO as well, okay? So people will definitely give you much more insight about the impact of the backhaul, okay, for such networks. So in terms of, well, let's give some numbers, at least, okay, for this total mobile traffic. So these are numbers from iDate, okay, for the provisions of the total mobile traffic for worldwide mobile traffic, okay, that will increase like 33 times compared with nowadays, okay, to 2010, let's say, okay. And you could see this is really exploding. So just for comparison, okay, I always give in the exabyte because I never remember what is an exabyte, okay, frankly speaking. Okay, it's 10 to the power of 18, okay. So anyway, it's a bit abstract, okay, for me, but this is outstanding, okay. This is really, I mean, exploding in terms of traffic when you really see the graph chart, I mean, between today and 2020, okay. So of course you get a margin of error, okay, but let's say frankly, I mean, all the analysts, okay, they all get this kind of numbers, okay, on average. So again, this is good for the business as long as you manage to deploy something that can address, okay, this demand. So these are well-known graph as well from Cisco VNI Mobile. Okay, this report that I encourage you to download. This is quite interesting. Okay, again, this huge growth of data and demand. Okay, what is more interesting from my side, I will say, is the large diversity again of devices. Okay, so you can see, okay, non-smartphone, tablets, machine-to-machine that we'll discuss very briefly today. Okay, home gateway, smartphones, laptop, and netbooks, and over. Okay, maybe combinations of such kind of devices like MiFi. Okay, MiFi is quite an interesting new device, I would say. Okay, and another aspect which is interesting are the diversity of applications again. Okay, and I always highlight that, but this is really true. Okay, you need to take that into account within the modeling of the traffic and impact on the network. So voice over IP, gaming, especially with the low latency of next generation network like LTE. Okay, machine to machine, peer to peer, mobile web data, of course, and mobile video, which is driving this crazy course, I would say, of the traffic growth. So, of course, in terms of mobile video, you get a lot of investigations, optimization, okay, to be handled there. And of course, this means that we get that means that we will go from an era of coverage, okay, which is, well, the usual way of dimensioning, I mean, network, to a capacity era where actually heterogeneous networks, which means a combination of different cell size, okay, so you get the usual macro. Pico is well known, of course, for a couple of years now, okay, and now we get femto, metro femto, which are, I mean, bigger, stronger femtocell, okay. So femtocell, I mean, starts in the residential area, as we'll see, okay. But of course, you can increase, let's say, the strength and the capacity of the femto. I mean, to put them in mall or outdoor, okay. And you can call them metro femto, for instance, okay. There are many different terminologies, okay. And of course, small cell, okay. So the boundary between, well, Pico, metro femto, small cell, you know, this is a big debate, I would say, okay. But definitely, heterogeneous networks are the solution to this capacity crunch. They are the solution because, so this is a slide from NEC, okay. They are the solution because it's not sufficient to try to investigate, so sorry guys for the coding guys, okay. I was part of that. It's not sufficient, okay. So a new channel coding, well, that's not sufficient. A new fantastic MIMO scheme is not sufficient, okay, and so on and so on. Okay, carrier aggregation is very nice, of course, okay, but all that together, well, we can discuss, of course, this maximum 7 times or 10 times for some of the companies, okay, but at the end of the day, what is much more fruitful for enhancement of the networks, this is densification, but not only the densification, this is a combination, so interworking, okay. We need to get all these networks working together, okay, and of course, smartly, okay. So all this network means cellular networks, okay, so 3GPP, like 3G, LTE, LTE, WiMAX, and of course, Wi-Fi, okay, capillary networks, okay. This is very important. So the combination altogether, this is where you will get a huge gain, okay, a huge enhancement. And this is how you can address the huge traffic growth. So this is just an example here from Ericsson. Okay, so of course, well, it's mentioned Pico, but you can replace it with femto, okay, whatever. This is Ericsson, okay. Just to demonstrate again that, okay, this is the reference point, okay, like a usual macro, and then you can improve with, again, with, well, channel coding, whatever, okay, physical layer or even higher layers, nice RRM, whatever, okay. You can improve, let's say, the cell itself, okay, the macro, and this is, well, the gain, downlink and uplink that you can get. And then you can densify, well, you get a bit more complications. Okay, you get some interference, of course, okay, which are rising. Okay, then you introduce Pico or femto, okay, low power nodes, okay, within your network. Okay, you get small increase, but then you combine all that together. Okay, so you take a joint approach, okay, or combining, well, a very joint RRM maybe, okay, with interference, very smart interference management, for instance, or radio resource management, and all that combined. This is where you achieve, I mean, outstanding enhancement for your cellular network.
Is it for the fixed nodes, or does it also consider mobility, the data you have for the
All the mobility. What do you mean? All the mobility?
Does it also consider the effects of mobility?
I don't think so, frankly speaking. Yeah, I don't think so. It's really just.
Fixed mobility.
Yeah, mostly, yeah. So, you know, this is just a starting point to say, okay, this is where you start to get something of interest. Then you need to refine, of course, the numbers, as always. You know, there is always a gray part somewhere. Yeah, so then in terms of, as I was saying, I mean, video is, of course, I mean, driving, okay, this traffic growth. So with just one slide, okay, just for your interest, I would say that currently, I mean, we all speak about fixed mobile convergence. Okay, there are convergence everywhere. Okay, in mobile business as well. Okay, and of course, video is something which is evolving currently a lot. Okay, and as you could see, you get the value chain of the video. Okay, communications. So here, which is really evolving as well. So you get, I mean, many people, industry people from the telepresence, others which are coming from the collaboration tools. Okay, and over from the video conference. And of course, I mean, all these people usually, well, except maybe Cisco, I would say, are not the same. Okay, so this is a big battle which is coming, okay, as always. Okay, voice is another aspect. Okay, we all know other the top applications for the voice. Okay, we'll see that later on, especially with the femto. Okay, but video is something where you get many things happening right now in terms of the value chain modifications. Okay, and why? Because, I mean, before, I mean, phase one, okay, phase one, when video conference mostly was just about connecting rooms, okay? Maybe you didn't experience that. I was experiencing that. Okay, then this was connecting employees to the companies. And finally, this is ubiquitous, okay, like the ubiquitous communication, but also for the video, okay, for visual communications, where you can connect, okay, with your smartphone, okay, between colleagues or friends, okay? So everybody is connected and everywhere, okay? That's why, again, you get this big battle coming, I would say, okay? So IT people, cellular people, okay, application people, everybody is, well, not necessarily joining the forces, but, okay, trying to get a piece of the pie. So, well, I guess our friend from InterDigital will recognize this slide, okay? That's why it's a very interesting slide. That's why I put it there, definitely. So this was a slide presented by InterDigital in Globecom, okay, last year already, during one of the workshops that we organized, I mean, about machine-to-machine communication in Houston, okay? And basically, this is just to summarize what's happening, I mean, today and, well, tomorrow, okay? And the femto small cell are part of that, and are really a keystone, again, of this new evolution, okay? So before, of course, we had the macro, I mean, the usual macro, okay, the cellular aspect, okay, connecting, I mean, people together, okay, mostly, okay? Then step by step, you get small traffic, but machine-to-machine, because machine-to-machine is already existing, already deployed, okay? It's not something new. Right, so and then, I mean, of course, I mean, we wanted to connect with other networks like Wi-Fi and capillary networks, okay, which are, let's say, untrusted networks, okay. And basically, you get nowadays, I mean, a lot of different networks, okay, which are heterogeneous networks, as I was speaking about, okay, the Pico, the femto, the mesh networking. And tomorrow, what is about tomorrow? Tomorrow is, of course, I mean, connecting things, okay, so this Internet of Things, connecting things and connecting people via the things, okay? So with sensor networks, with, I mean, like infotainment within the cars, or telematics, okay, or sensors for e-health, okay? So basically, the machine-to-machine, and beyond the machine-to-machine, the Internet of Things, of course. Okay, machine-to-machine, just a small part, but, I mean, a critical part of the Internet of Things, okay? So this is, well, the network of network, okay, as InterDigital is saying, and this is definitely true, okay? So heterogeneous network or hybrid networks, whatever you want to call it, okay? Depending on the denomination, 3GPP or not, okay? So for my side, I mean, heterogeneous network is really embracing not only cellular, again, okay, with different small cell, okay, it's also embracing different technologies, okay, in terms of radio access and interworking with also the core network, okay? It's not only all about radio access, never, okay? Even for very interesting radio access, okay? It's not all about that. And how BeFEMTO vision is related with that, I mean, I guess if you have downloaded, I mean, a couple of deliverables from the BeFEMTO, you recognize this one, which is now a bit old, I have to admit, okay? Because the project is running for 2 years now, okay? So this is the vision of BeFEMTO, and you will recognize anyway, I mean, a couple of things that we already discussed about, okay? Like, of course, the standalone femto was the initial starting point for the Femtocells, the residential area, okay? So home network, okay? And then you get the, well, let's say the corporate the corporate femto, which are the network femtocell, so mesh of femtocell. So we get an example here, okay, deployed by CTTC, mesh of femto. And of course, we get also the fixed relay femto, so outdoor femtocell with some capabilities, brought by LTA, okay, with the relaying, okay. And you get also the mobile femto, so potentially, to deploy femtocell in public transport, like bus or highway, okay, for instance, okay. So the starting point I was mentioning is still, the residential arena, okay. Even for, small cell and metro femto are going outdoor, okay, with open access or hybrid access. Well, at the end of the day, currently most of the commercial deployments are residential. So it's always interesting, to start, to focus on the starting point. So the starting point is really the smart digital home, okay. Smart digital home because it's like you get a local connectivity of a wireless LAN, okay, with device management, so with Wi-Fi or also DECT, okay. And broadband forum is a very strong part of that, okay. The broadband forum is really what connects all this CPE, okay, within the residential arena. And this is quite a big difference with respect to the cellular world, initially, with the femto. Femto is managed by TR69 and TR196. Well, anyway, protocols, from the broadband forum. And this was quite new, I would say, compared with the cellular approach, okay? Because it's coming from this side, okay, from the smart digital home, okay? And what we can do, of course, within this smart digital home, this is e-health, retailing, security, of course, control of the devices, okay? I could mention, for instance, on the right side, okay, DLNA, okay, UPnP. You might have seen that maybe on your Xbox or whatever, where you can, when you plug it, you can discover, okay, the networks, the devices around, okay, and interact somehow, okay. This is very important again, to remember that all that is not about physical layer only, or even core network. You need some protocols, you need some, applications, or API and middleware, okay. So Android, you get also the tungsten that was, I think, demonstrated like maybe 2 years ago already, tungsten, okay, for the home network, okay. So this is coming also. OSGI is something which is very important as well with Java bundles, okay. So let's say all the software guys, definitely this is an arena, okay, which is very interesting. So toward the Internet of Things, I was mentioning it again and again. This is true because this is just an example again of the network at home, okay, within this smart digital home, and you can see here this capillary network with the energy, okay, the white goods or the e-health or the security, comfort like home automation, okay, with home automation with the stores or whatever. Okay, and you get also the infotainment, of course, multimedia, okay, infotainment network, and all that together is connected. So, of course, then deciding, okay, which is the piece, the masterpiece, okay, of the network, the keystone. It really depends on the architecture. It really depends on the value chain and the business model of your company. Okay, from our side, in Telecom, for instance, we are developing many boxes like set-top box, okay, or the femto or the gateway, and it really depends on the operator if you want to integrate all that together in the residential gateway or in the set-top box. Okay, a femto is not only a standalone femtocell, it can be integrated, it can be part of a set-top box or any other kind of device. Okay, again, it all depends on the business model of the operator. And of course, energy, well, this is, for instance, here a Linky, which is one of the products that we are developing, which is about the smart grid, okay, smart metering. So all that is connected. So the initial starting point of femtocell, okay, it's well known. Okay, this is just a survey, okay, that was driven by the Femto Forum and a while ago, I think now. Okay, so initially, of course, femtocells are seen to solve, okay, this issue, this problem of coverage. Well, this is quite well known. Okay, this indoor coverage issue. Okay, and in this way, let's say from the operator side, this is a good way also to decrease the churn rate. Okay, so people leaving the operator, okay, because they get bad quality. Okay, definitely, this is as simple as that. Okay, so it was mentioned that it can reduce the churn, let's say, like 42%, which is quite huge, actually. So of course, this is the initial phase of introduction of the femto. Okay, when people experience problems, you give them a femto for free. This is mostly what is done, currently. And of course, they will stay there, okay, because they get the good quality. But if you get many operators deploying a femtocell, then of course the churn rate okay, the battle of the churn rate will face the same issue as, well, at the smartphone introduction, okay? People will compare, the offer and so on. So the churn rate will decrease as well, okay? But at least at the first introduction, this is very interesting for the operator. And of course, when we speak femto or Wi-Fi, okay, we need to address the offload, okay? And this is something which is very important with the small cell, okay, and with the femtocell. So this is an example, given by, I think, Cisco, okay, within the Femto Forum. Okay, this is offload via Wi-Fi and or femtocell. Okay, so I think it's a bit old, maybe 1 year and something, okay, the graph, but it gives at least a good starting point for understanding the behavior currently. Okay, so on average, as you could see, well, 30% of the traffic is offloaded on Wi-Fi or femtocell. But on the positive way, this is what I mentioned here, that means that more than 70% of the traffic is still not offloaded, okay, which means from the operator point of view, there is a big margin in terms of progress. Okay, so which means you need to educate people first, okay, about what they can do with the technology. But of course, you also need to enhance this technology, okay, to facilitate this offload from the user point of view, okay, because currently we are facing all the issues with Wi-Fi, for instance, with the lack of the problems with authentication, for instance, for the Wi-Fi or the roaming issues, So all that together is not facilitating the deployment or, let's say, the use of the Wi-Fi or carrier Wi-Fi, okay, worldwide. Not even mentioning the roaming issues, okay, but we'll see later on for the small cell. Okay, so again, this is all that together. You need to educate, you need to explain what you can do with Wi-Fi and femto, of course, offload, but also you might give some incentive scheme in terms of commercial deployments, which is not really what is given so far. Okay, and of course, offloading the traffic is very good for the operator. Okay, no need to mention that. This is quite a huge network saving for them. So, again, just to summarize a bit more, the femtocell key findings here. Of course, the voice coverage is, well, the starting point, as we say. Okay, this is clearly what is mentioned everywhere and within the commercial deployments. Channel reduction, which is of course an implication of that. The complementarity with Wi-Fi. Well, I guess this afternoon we get quite some discussions and presentation about that, but I was mentioning it earlier. You need to get this complementarity, okay, between and among multiple, let's say, cellular and capillary networks, okay. And the added value services, I do believe this is something which is really missing so far in the commercial deployments, okay. This is very hard, let's say, to find, such kind of added value services offers, okay, within the current commercial deployments, okay. Most of the commercial deployments right now, as I mentioned, is about you get a problem with your coverage. Okay, I will give you a femto for free, and that's it. Okay, basically. Okay, you don't get any discount, you don't get any added value services. It's very rare. Maybe in Japan, okay, you get such kind of advertisement about a location base, okay, or presence, okay, identification thanks to the femto. But again, it's not a lack of added value services, it's just a lack of commercial offer. Okay, in Femto Forum, and there are many, many studies and reports about what you can do with the femto in terms of very nice applications. Okay, and then you see that in terms of implementation from the operator side, this is really minimum. Again, coverage, just to solve the coverage issue, and for free. Okay, so basically service level agreement, and that's all. So there is a big potential. So let me go through that very quickly. Again, I had, of course, to mention the BeFEMTO Consortium. Okay, so we are, as you might know, okay, we get 6 state members. Okay, we get Docomo, PTC, which is now T-Mobile, Telefonica, of course. We get NEC, Sagem.com, Qualcomm. We get TTI, MIMO-OFDM, which is very active in the femto arena and small cell arena. Okay, and you will get a lot of keynote speakers from MIMO-OFDM, I think, this week. If I remember well, and of course CTTC and the CEA, and higher education, Oulu University and University of Surrey. And in terms of advisory board, this is the current status, so we get quite some regulatory organizations, as you can tell, okay, on the left side. Okay, we get Ofcom, UKE from Poland, NFR from France, and ECO, which is in Denmark, I think. Or, yeah, but anyway, this is European Communications Office. And from the industry side, we get well, Femto Forum, which is quite well represented by 2 partners, okay, Simon Saunders and Prabhakar from Interdigital, okay, and we get Martin Research Consulting, iDate, and of course ETSI as a standard organization. Well, BeFEMTO itself and the objectives and approach, well, just to go very quickly, we get a very challenging objectives in terms of high spectral efficiency, 8 bits per second per hertz and per cell, a maximum transmit power of 10 milliwatts, and of course it's all about ubiquitous, and addressing many new challenges in terms of scenarios and use cases, as you could see. I will skip that. Okay, you will get the handout, so don't worry. Okay, I just wanted to emphasize again this real-world technology approach, especially because you are in the CTTC premises and you get here a very nice lab. Okay, where you get a mesh femto network. I think it's quite rare to get mesh femto network currently deployed. Okay, even worldwide. Okay, so we get at least 4 testbeds and 2 more are coming. Okay, one especially from CTTC. Okay, with interference management for LTE radio. As I mentioned, routing networks of femtocell, multi-radio interference analysis, and automatic fault diagnosis. So the achievements, I will skip that. Okay. So what is more interesting this morning is the BeFEMTO positioning with respect to the femtocell market status and LTE ecosystem, because it gives me, the opportunity to go through, again, this market analysis. So BeFEMTO and Femto Forum, well, that's a story, okay, definitely, because we are 7 partners within the consortium to be members of the Femto Forum, like Sagemcom, NEC, Qualcomm, MIMO-OFDM, Docomo, Telefonica, and very recently, last year, PTC, which is branded T-Mobile now, okay, joined, the Femto Forum and as an observer. And of course, in terms of the advisory board, as I was mentioning, we get 2 members of the advisory board, which are, well, definitely very active in the Femto Forum. So it gives us, I think, good insight about what's happening there in terms of within this industry alliance. So a lot of things are changing lately. Okay, I'm not going to speak too much about that. Okay, but the Femto Forum is really progressing toward, well, small cell to embrace a bit more the business model, okay, and the technology toward the small cell. So the Femto Forum, currently this is like 66 operators. Okay, so of course not all of them are deploying commercial femtocell, okay, but they are joining this alliance to discuss, okay, with the whole ecosystem and the value chain, okay, and this is always a good indicator of the maturity and the interest, the real interest of the industry, and of course from the operators, okay, with the technology. So speaking ecosystem, here you can see, the breakdown of the value chain of the femto. Okay, or the femto or small cell. Okay, so you get, of course, as always, the end-to-end providers solutions. So as you could see, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are coming from the infrastructure, okay, vendors. Okay, this is, well, you can understand that. Okay, especially with the 3G. Okay, with the LTE, I think it can be a bit more challenge. Okay, but the 3G, of course, we had this IUH interface. Okay, that had to be standardized. Okay, it was not always standardized within the commercial deployment, so you have to, well, to get some partners coming from the infrastructure if you want to sell something and to deploy it. Okay, but you can see that like Cisco or IP access, for instance, are quite some challengers, which are not, let's say, always from the infrastructure, from the cellular infrastructure. They are from the IT infrastructure mostly, but not always from the cellular one. Okay, and of course you get the component and software provider, the Femto access point provider, so basically manufacturing the device itself. Okay. The Femto core network, which is very important, of course, as well, okay, and others, okay, which means they are putting some pieces of the puzzle together. And another thing which is very important, this is, of course, the maturity in terms of IoT. Okay, IoT plugfest is always also, a good maturity index. Okay, this is already the 4th IoT plugfest that the Femto Forum is doing. Okay. Because, of course, a standard is all about IoT, okay, multi-vendor, and being sure that you can discuss with, well, the other device within the network, okay, from another vendor. The femtocell market status, currently this is like 36 commercial deployments in 23 countries, okay, and more, of course, is coming in 2012, because there are already like 15 commitments from operators, announcement, basically, okay, for this year only. Okay, so these are the operators, deploying real commercial femto networks. So this is something which is happening, okay, definitely. Okay, there was a lot of buzz, let's say, around the femto initially, maybe too much, kind of hype. Okay, so people are always complaining, well, femtocells are not happening. Well, as you could see, this is happening. Okay, it took some time, let's say, to take off. Okay, it's not really a huge takeoff. Okay, but it's starting. Okay, so this is a competitive market. So it gives you, I think, a good picture. Okay, from the Femto Forum, of course. A good picture of the different operators, worldwide. Okay, so you can see in yellow, that means there is only one operator in the area, okay, or in the country, okay, and then you get 2 and 3 is in red, okay. So again, this gives you a competitive index, a competitive measure, okay, So in the US, as you can see, well, as always, you know, you get a bit more operators deploying Femto, okay? But Europe, okay, you always get at least maybe 2 operators, okay? So this is the forecast for the Femto access point shipments. So from Informa Telecom. So I mean, frankly speaking, I think this is really optimistic. Okay, Telecom is in the business, okay, of the Femto. I do believe this is very optimistic. Okay, so as you could see, in 2009, 2010, okay, this is quite small. Okay, it's growing. I know this is always exponential. Okay, as you can recognize it. Okay, I do believe it's very optimistic. For investors, maybe, you know, I think you have to be fair and do not expect that like 2012 it's like more than 10 million. Okay, Femto. Well, I think you need to take this number very carefully. Okay. Of course, it all depends. Okay, we all know that okay, Femtocells are very interesting, especially with the LTE deployment. Okay, this is attracting a lot of operators with LTE deployment. Okay, compared with the 3G. Okay, but still, I think this is very optimistic. Just to carry on very quickly with the Femto Forum, I mean, these are kind of work items, okay, which are prioritized, okay, within the Femto Forum. And like, okay, of course, encourage operator deployments. Well, of course, consumer attitude and value proposition. So this is business modeling. As always, metro outdoor small cell or femtocell, integrated femto and Wi-Fi networks. Again, we could get a speech about that definitely. LTO femtocell, enterprise, service enablement, open interoperability. And all these topics are addressed, not fully, okay, of course, but somehow, okay, in the BeFEMTO project. Not fully, of course. I mean, we're not as big as the Femto Forum, okay, we're not a huge, I mean, industry alliance, okay, but still we are addressing a couple of them and in some extent. So LTE networks, okay, the status of LTE network deployment. So currently, I mean, this is the latest numbers from the GSA, I think this month, January 2012, okay, so we are already like 49 commercial LTE network launch worldwide, and what is even more interesting is that it's more than 160 LTE user devices available. Okay, this is really huge, which means there are many vendors, okay, that are committed to the LTE technology. You know, that means behind that you get a lot of R&D teams, marketing, but of course R&D teams and strengths, you know, that are committed to designing a device or chip or protocol stack, you know, and to deploy and of course to certify the device for LTE networks. And that means a lot, okay, definitely. 226 commercial LTE commitments in 76 countries, and 59 pre-commitment trials. So again, as a whole, this is more than 285 operators, okay, in 93 countries currently. This is really huge, frankly speaking, okay. So the mobile broadband spectrum, so this is a mess. I mean, frankly speaking, I put a couple of slides there, okay, just to give you the major bands, okay, and to, let's say, to share the key message that this is chaos. I mean, well, chaos in some extent, of course. Okay, the problem is the fragmentation and harmonization of the spectrum is definitely a critical problem. So very briefly, I mean, let's say for North America, especially US, okay, because US currently are really driving the LTE deployment. Well, the big money is there, definitely, and they are very committed as always in the US, okay. So you get Verizon, okay, Metro PCS, AT&T, okay. Verizon and Metro PCS were, I mean, the first one, okay, to deploy, okay, definitely. So Verizon in the 700 megahertz, okay, like AT&T, 2 different bands, okay, 13 and 17, I believe, okay. And Metro PCS is using the AWS, okay, band, okay, for deploying the LTE. But we'll see, it's not the same approach, okay. So we have to bear in mind that Verizon and AT&T are the 2 strongest operators, okay, for getting a nationwide coverage, and Metro PCS is really targeting, I mean, well, small arenas, okay, but this was a very good marketing, let's say, action or approach for Metro PCS, definitely. So again, digital dividend band, okay, 700 for the US and AWS, and European version, again, digital dividend is 800 megahertz band. I'm sure that you have heard about that. Okay, the switching of the analog TV to the digital TV, that gave some band for the LTE. Okay, and the 2.6 gigahertz band. So these are the most harmonized bands, definitely. Okay, we'll see later on, I mean, the full picture of the bands, and we can see that definitely Europe is putting a lot of effort on harmonizing the band. Okay. So FDD, of course, I mean, 2 times 70 megahertz for the 2.6 band, okay, or 2 times 35 for the 800s, and TDD you get 50 megahertz band. Okay, so basically, of course, 800s you get a wide coverage, but you get smaller band, okay, and 2.6, well, smaller coverage, but big band. Okay, so hotspot 2.6 and 800 for coverage in rural area, for instance. Okay, so this is part of the licenses, for instance, in some countries like France. Okay, they already allocated the 800 megahertz band. Okay, for rural coverage, which means as an operator, if you manage to get the right auction bidding, okay, you get some constraints, okay, in terms of the licenses, okay, in terms of the population. So China, yeah.
From a hardware cost point of view, what is the biggest challenge? Is that you have different bandwidths, or that you're communicating at different carrier frequencies?
Well, I would say, frankly speaking, it's different carrier frequencies, okay, for the RF, and especially with the time to market, because, well, if you are a device, if you make a device, for instance, like us in Satcom, okay, you need to integrate the chip, okay, plus the RFIC, okay. So every time you need to discuss with the guys, like, what is the profile, the RF profile that you are targeting as a first stage, okay. And all these guys are saying, okay, there's a big money in the US, okay, so I will first chip RFIC for the 700 megahertz band, okay, and then I will get the European version, okay, and then maybe later on, okay, we get other kind of profile, you know. And of course, there is an impact, of course, also on the RFIC side in terms of linear amplifier. Well, all these details, okay, I'm not a big RF guy, okay, but that means that you get a profile usually dedicated to all these bands. Of course, with the time passing, okay, the guys are trying to integrate all that, okay, and to get a huge profile, okay. But currently, the chipsets for the LTE, sorry, most of them right now, I mean, are multi-mode, okay, which means you get 2G, 3G, LTE, and for each of these modes, you get multiple bands, like pentabands. I mean, this is really huge, you know. Of course, there is impact on the price, as always, but the whole thing is really an impact, a clear impact on the bill of material, okay, and the availability also of basically the roadmap, okay, the availability of the device itself, okay, because there are some priorities, okay. Again, priorities is coming with the, well, with the money, okay, with the deployments. Okay, and so some of the guys, depending on the, well, again, depending on the chipset makers, they are focusing only Europe version, okay, like maybe, okay, 2G, the 3G like HSPA and LTE and in those band, which are European band, and other guys, bigger guys, okay, they say, okay, I'm going to focus on the 3G from my side is more CDMA 2000, let's say 3G, okay, because my operator in the US, okay, and of course with the 700 bands. But of course, there is a convergence. We're getting a higher profile, okay, and we'll see actually because of this fragmentation, okay, as I said, there is a big impact on the product, on the private product, on the availability, and another interesting problem is the roaming, okay. It's a roaming nationwide, but also worldwide, okay. So for us, because Femtocell, again, this is a device, okay, there is a big problem there, okay, to know exactly which band, okay, you need to address. Okay, and especially if you get a worldwide market, well, you would like to get all the profile all together in the, you know, in the device, you know. So yeah, with little modifications. Okay, so roadmap, yeah, this is a bit of nightmare again. So anyway, for everybody, it's always better to get harmonization of the bands. Okay, which is not currently what is done, frankly speaking. So which is again just a synthesis here, I mean, very briefly of different bands, okay, of interest with the operator. So it's not only commercial deployment there. I mean, a couple of them are just kind of commitment to some bands, okay, like KDDI, for instance. So yeah, this is the frequency usage by region here. I'm not going into the details, okay, but still, as you could see, I mean, if you take Latin America or Asia Pacific, I think it's quite clear that there are many bars, okay, which means it's not very harmonized. Okay, that means, well, basically everybody is doing whatever they want, basically. Okay, not, of course, this is, well, an extreme statement, let's say. Of course, you get some rules and, you know, coexistence issues and discussions. Okay, but this is really more fragmented in Latin America and the Asia Pacific. Okay, even though you get some major bands of interest, okay, in these regions, okay, still it's very fragmented. Okay, North America or Europe is much more harmonized again. Okay, so another band which is quite of sorry. So I was just mentioning the roaming issue. Okay, that's why I put this slide. Okay, and trying to highlight, of course, how to address the roaming. Okay, so you already get the first problem with which is the roaming, like in the US. Okay, because Verizon and AT&T are not using the same band. I mean, it is 700. Okay, but two different bands. So you need, if you want roaming between the two operators, okay, maybe the FCC is pushing for that, I'm not sure, okay, you need to be sure that your device is going to address the band 13 and the band 17, okay, basically, okay. But then, I mean, if you go outside the US, okay, sometimes Americans, they do that, okay, they go outside the US, okay, well, you need to find a way, okay, to interwork with like European networks or, you know, Asia-Pacific networks. And one of the bands which is, for the timing, okay, discussed, okay, for this kind of roaming is the 1800s, okay. So 1800s band is something which is really growing in terms of interest, okay. That means behind that you get, again, an ecosystem of operators and vendors, okay, trying to push harmonization or reuse of the 1800s band. So the spectrum auction bidding, okay, so very quickly, because it will take like ages, I mean, to go through all the details, okay. There are many auction bidding. There have been a lot of auction bidding, I mean, lately, okay. And this one is just from October 2011, so it does not take even into account, okay, the French ones, okay, that were finalized in December, okay. But you can see, again, depending on the bands and depending on the, again, this is always normalized by the population number, okay. I guess it reassure people because behind that this is a lot of money. And of course, I mean, the lower band, well, you get a better coverage, you know, wider coverage. So this is where the big money is going, you know. So I was speaking about the 1800s. So this is the phenomenon, I mean, let's say lately, okay. A lot of people are pushing for it, okay. So this is here, as you can see, the deployment, or at least the trials, the studies, the consultations, and of course commercial deployments. There are a couple of them currently worldwide in red here. And the first one started, I think, in Poland, okay. So this is one of the strongest ecosystem which is pushed, I mean, so far. And of course, let's say what they claim, okay, we are not going into the debate. What they claim is, let's say, that the 1800s is quite a good compromise, of course, between the 800s or 700s and the 2.6, okay, basically. Well, you can understand that in terms of frequency range, but also in terms of device, the price of the device, and also because, I mean, 1800s is already used, okay, for 3G, for instance, okay, or 2.5G, depending on the countries, okay. So these operators, they want to reuse the site of the already existing 1800s deployments. Okay, so this is, again, the current state of the market for 1800s. And what is interesting is that to see that there are already like 41 LTE devices that are compatible with the 1800s band deployment. So another interesting momentum in the LTE is, of course, the TD-LTE, okay, the time division LTE. Okay, so on the right, on the left side, sorry, okay, this is a survey for the operators. Okay, they were asking if they want to go first, okay, to the FDD-LTE, or if they want then to complement it with the TD-LTE or go directly to the TD-LTE. And definitely there are a lot of operators that are deploying FDD and then that we complement it with the TD-LTE, okay, itself. And again, on the right side, okay, there is quite an important ecosystem which is already existing there, driven by China, okay, by China Mobile, okay, again, to deliver devices and network, okay, for the TD-LTE. So of course, you can find quite a couple of people coming from the WiMAX world, because WiMAX was the TD technology, and TD-LTE is quite an opportunity for them, like Sequence, for instance, okay, to come back to the LTE world. Okay, even for Sequence now is doing also FDD. But again, this is quite an opportunity for operators to migrate their network from the WiMAX to the TD-LTE smoothly, let's say smoothly, okay, with some price of course, but smoothly, okay. And in terms of maturity of the technology, I think it's quite beneficial as well. So WiMAX basically was quite beneficial to LTE at the end of the day, okay. And the TD-LTE is quite, again, considered within the BeFEMTO project. So LTE deployment, okay, in terms of timeline, time window, well, 2012, so this year will be one of the major deployments worldwide, okay, for the LTE itself, as we could see. And it's quite well aligned, again, with the roadmap of the project in terms of standardization, in terms of IoT and certification trials. So as I was mentioning quite a lot, I mean, LTE is quite a fast deployment. So this is just some survey, okay, from the GSA, to demonstrate somehow that the LTE momentum is quite higher than on the HSPA. Now, this is true. Couple of numbers coming from the iDate in terms of LTE device shipment. So by 2015, okay, worldwide, we can see in detail, I mean, different areas, okay, it's around 250 million LTE devices, so which will represent like 15% of all the mobile devices. So this is quite huge. I mean, LTE is definitely happening and very interesting for investors and of course all the vendors around. Something else I wanted to mention here. Let's take the subscriber forecast for the LTE. Okay, again by 2015, it's around 379 million LTE subscribers worldwide. And what is important here to mention is that, as you could see, 2015, this is where there is this crossing of power, I would say, between Asia and North America. Okay, currently, definitely North America is driving everything in terms of deployment, in terms of innovation as well for the device of the LTE, in terms of commercial offers. And 2015, well, this is where we get this crossing. Okay, well, more or less. Okay, 2015. I mean, some other analysts say maybe a bit earlier. Well, we'll see. I think iDate, honestly, we always get some fair numbers, not too optimistic numbers. So I would believe that. Okay, 2015. This is where Asia will take over the position number 1 for the LTE subscribers, and Europe is well behind, unfortunately. LTE device revenues, which is of course of a very high interest forecast. Okay, by 2015 again, okay, we'll end up with like more than 20 billion, okay, euro, okay, for the worldwide LTE device revenues. So LTE ecosystem is maturing fast. Okay, this is just again a subsample and an old one. Okay, an initial one I think 1.5 years ago. Yeah, something like that. With different categories again of devices like the smartphones, the mobile tablets, DSL routers, but you get also the USB dongles, netbooks, etc., etc. So if you take anyway the GSA, I mean, report, you will see that there are many different categories and many vendors, I mean, addressing the LTE technology. And this is just an example of the form factor, which means it gives you, I mean, different categories of devices. And as you could see, like for instance, we get like 70 in 2011. Sorry, end of 2011, we had like 70 routers. I mean, 47. I think this is dongles. Yeah, dongles. 27 smartphones, and so on. And just in a couple of months, okay, this is now, I mean, the latest numbers. This is, I mean, really huge in terms of increase. You know, that means in a couple of months, like 3 months, we get a 36% increase in LTE devices. Okay, we get more than 200 LTE user devices launched in 2011, and the smartphones like times 6 in 6 months. Okay. So yeah, just a complementary, I mean, graphic again to say that smartphone and tablets definitely will account like 60% of the LTE devices in 2013. So when you can find, okay, this kind of interesting, I mean, numbers, like you already get like 48 LTE smartphones, and depending on the vendors, this is coming from the GSA database. So this is much more for you, I mean, in terms of handouts, okay, if you want to check it out, I mean, afterwards. So MiFi, I mean, this is one interesting, let's say, device, okay, the mobile Wi-Fi. I mean, these MiFi devices that were provided with the 3G initially, okay. This is growing, I would say, in terms of technology providers. So you get Samsung, Novatel, Wireless, Sierra Wireless, LG, Buffalo, Huawei, ZTE. So these were the initial ones, okay. So I guess lately you might guess a couple of guys joining the battle, okay. But initially this is what we had, like say 1 year ago, mostly. Okay, so LTE commercial status about the MiFi. So you had, of course, the Verizon 4G, okay, as always, driving the innovation with the MiFi provided by Samsung and Novatel Wireless, okay. And you get AT&T, which is basically just reusing the Sierra Wireless, okay, and just rebranding it with the AT&T logo, okay. And this one is also provided to Rogers. So Rogers is an operator in Canada, okay. So basically that means they wanted to get something fast available from the shell. You know, like I don't want something very fancy, sorry. Just put my logo, that's it, okay, it works. Docomo, like Verizon, is a bit more innovative in that aspect, okay, so we get this LG MiFi, okay, on the left, okay, so L09C, and they get another one, okay, from Buffalo. Okay. Something interesting as well in terms of M2M, because we spoke about the machine-to-machine very briefly. You get this M2M gateway, which is provided by Sierra Wireless, okay, for Verizon. And inside, I will say that this is Sierra Wireless, so inside this might be like Qualcomm inside. Okay, so HSPA, so very briefly here, I'm going to skip it. Okay, HSPA is still there. Okay, this is the key message here actually. Okay, but even though you get LTE, which is very strong, I mean, very fast deployment, you get an ecosystem which is strong, mature, many devices. Well, don't forget about 3G, definitely. It will be there for quite a while. Okay, 3G is evolving. You get a 3G plus, I mean HSPA plus, and it's still carry on in terms of evolution. Okay, so you need to take that into account within your your deployment and also your commercial offers. Okay, it's not only LTE. Okay, so this is a kind of trend for 2016 in terms of the global ecosystem for the cellular network. So GSM, HSPA again, LTE, and CDMA. Okay, as you could see again, well, 2.5, 3G, and LTE are still, still there. Okay. So the rollout of the LTE in the Americas, okay. So I just wanted to get something a bit fair in terms of what happened there. Okay, so America is like North America, like USA, Canada, Latin America as well. Okay, it's something that we tend to forget sometimes. Okay, but US, of course, you get Metro PCS, Verizon, AT&T, US Cellular, and we'll see a bit more. Okay, and mostly in Canada currently, this is like Rogers. Okay, which already launched some LTE commercial offers, as I was mentioning. So the rollout in the USA. So just for you in terms of handouts, okay, because we tend to forget that. Okay, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, Metro PCS. We always hear about these guys. Okay, well, these are the major operators again in the US. So these were the numbers for early 2010. Okay, so this might have been changed, of course, slightly, but this gives you a kind of ranking of the different operators. And of course, these different operators have deployed already some different technologies. Okay, like AT&T is mostly with HSPA, I mean, initially. Okay, and the other guys are with like, 1X RTT or A-Video, and they want to complement that with the LTE, of course. So this is the coverage of Verizon Wireless. Okay, you can find that on the internet, on the Verizon website, okay, to get an updated one. So again, the 3G is in red. Okay, so 3G coverage will be complemented, of course, by the LTE deployment, which is in green. Okay, to the stars. Okay, we are starting with again different towns. Okay, or small arenas. In terms of the deal of LTE with Verizon, which means who are the providers and in which part, I think this might be fairly correct. I would say so. The radio part, the radio access part, this is mostly Alcatel, Lucent, and Ericsson. Okay, the core network, you get, of course, Alcatel and Ericsson, and Starent networks. And for the IMS part, you get Alcatel, Lucent, and Nokia Siemens networks. Okay, so that's always interesting to see. I mean, who gets a piece of the pie? Okay, and on which aspect. So the 4G, you all know that, okay, especially in the US, okay, 4G was branded and rebranded with many things, like HS Plus was 4G, WiMAX was 4G, okay, so everybody is 4G. So this is a Sprint coverage map for the 4G WiMAX, okay, it's not even the word 4G, it's not mobile, it's not WiMAX evolution here, okay. But again, the point is, we get a 3G nationwide coverage, okay, which is complemented by this, well, high capacity 4G or WiMAX coverage. Okay, this is always the approach. Okay, and of course at 2.5 gigahertz for the Sprint. So innovation with Verizon, which is driving this innovation, as I was mentioning. Okay, again, initially they managed to get quite some smartphones. Okay, very early. Okay, so we didn't really care, I would say, about the voice over LTE. Okay, so voice over IMS or CS fallback. Well, American way, very pragmatic. Okay. Okay, you want some voice, okay, just go to 1X RTT, okay, dual radio, okay, and the data on LTE, okay. So dual radio, battery, I guess, is quite impacted, okay, but very pragmatic, and they managed to get a commercial offer and to get some smartphones, okay, to do that. So this is always interesting from the European side to see the different approach. Okay? I always compare like Wi-Fi and HiPad 2, HiPad 2, nobody knows what it is, okay. So, and mobile tablets, okay, with Motorola or Samsung, okay, the MiFi, and of course the dongles. Okay, dongles is really the basic offer. Okay. The timeline milestone of Verizon Cellular. Okay, so I will skip it very quickly. Okay, very challenging. Okay, very promising as well. Okay, they really want to get a lot of innovation, and the key point is innovation for getting fast return over investment. Okay. Lot of innovation, lot of different devices means that you can get a lot of different commercial offers and bundling, okay, for the users, okay, and addressing a lot of different markets. And at the end of the day, with 2020 with machine-to-machine connections, well, let's see when it will really take off. Okay, but again, open development, service development platform, LTE innovation centers. I will have a slide about that. Okay, so very pushy, definitely. Metro PCS, again, Metro PCS is quite small in the US, okay, especially compared with Verizon and NTT. Okay, so this was quite a good branding, or let's say quite a good marketing thing. I mean, to be capable of getting LTE handset. Okay, so basically, these were quite early adopters of the LTE, and nobody was there. Well, Samsung are quite interested to get, to test and to deploy and to show that, okay, we are in the LTE business. We are capable of providing, okay, a smartphone, okay, with LTE, and they managed to get a good partnership there, I believe. But as you could see, I mean, the LTE coverage map of Metro PCS, well, it's quite restricted. These are towns, like Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, and so on. It's really a small operator, okay, Metro PCS. Again, this is the same coverage, okay, with 3G and the LTE side. AT&T, so AT&T, of course, is one of the biggest operators, as I would say, with competing really with Verizon. They really struggle, I mean, with LTE deployment. Okay, I mean, they are quite behind the schedule and behind Verizon. So I think they are trying to, well, to catch up with the momentum of the LTE. And that's why I think the USB dongle or the MiFi, which are definitely directly coming from TR Wireless, okay, this was the fair option for them to be capable, at last, I would say, to deploy commercially LTE in some towns. Okay. But the advantage of AT&T is that they get a very good HSP plus network, okay, nationwide. LTE deal with AT&T, again, Alcatel-Lucent for the RAN. EPC is Alcatel, Starent, and Juniper Networks, and IMS, okay, the same three guys. Well, LTE innovation and smartphones, well, I think I already mentioned that. More importantly, okay, the voice, as I was mentioning. Okay, 2011 there have been the first trials for the voice over LTE, especially with Verizon, okay, and with, of course, the vendors like LG and so on, trying to, well, trials, okay, trying to get end-to-end voice over LTE, and they plan, well, I guess they still plan this year, maybe end of this year, okay, to start deploying commercial offer with the true voice over LTE, which means with IMS behind. Okay, it's not CS fallback or whatever, it's the true voice over LTE. Okay, but the massive deployment, I would guess, is more like 2013. Okay, the massive deployment, early 2013, I would say. And AT&T anyway is behind that. Okay, behind schedule. Okay, so yes, I mean last year it was still trying to get the CS fallback and maybe trials this year. Okay, and commercial deployments, I would guess 1 year behind that. Okay. So another important aspect, of course, this is a statement from well, Tony Malone, okay, the Verizon wireless CTO in 2009, back in 2009, okay, but they definitely identified the Femtocells as the keystone, okay, for their LTE deployment. And I know that they are, well, investigating with RFU and something out there, okay, for the LTE Femto. So let's see what will happen maybe this year, okay, end of this year, or maybe in Mobile World Congress, end of February, I don't know. We'll see. A brief slide for you, again, for 700 bands. Well, if you want to get the world history of 700 bands in the US, well, I guess it will take you a PhD, okay, for understanding everything and, for the time. What I wanted to emphasize here, this is the DVB-H and all this, the TV on handset things, okay, I do believe it's dead. I always, I mean, lately I've even evaluated, again, a R&D project, I mean, collaborative project on kind of next generation DVB-H. Well, I don't see how it can happen, I mean, frankly speaking. Okay, I mean, all the bands have been sold out, okay, by every guys, I mean, in the US. Okay, let's see anyway, for that. Light Square, okay, definitely, this is one of the, well, I can see, let's say, a key LTE players. I would say they invested a lot of money, for sure. Okay, they still not deploy LTE, okay, they get a lot of problems. But let's say the business case of Light Square is very interesting, because this wholesale approach, which is also followed by Yota, okay, in Russia. Okay, Yota was the main WiMAX operator, okay, and they switched from one day to another and saying that WiMAX was totally crap, but they always believe in LTE, okay, thanks to Russia. Okay, so anyway, this is a wholesale business model. So basically, okay, you are just taking all your partners as a third party, okay, and providing the pipe, okay, providing the pipe with good quality of service, okay, and even the deployment itself, okay, they managed, I mean, they are negotiating still with Sprint, okay, to deploy, okay, the true network, okay, And of course, they are facing a lot of issues lately. Maybe you have followed that. They are facing a lot of issues with GPS interference. Okay, they thought that they could solve it very quickly. It's still not solved, definitely. Okay, and the FCC is still doing a lot of process and legal process. Okay, and they might lose the band actually. So this is a big issue actually with light squared, because you get a satellite link. Okay, with light squared, where Qualcomm is providing the chipset, okay, with this enhanced geostationary link, okay, which is called the Eagle technology from Qualcomm, okay, and well, it's still not deployed, and they get a lot of problems, legal issues, interference issues with the GPS providers, and GPS is, well, it's very sensitive, okay. This is security as well. So let's see what will happen with light squared, okay. And of course, in the US, what is also interesting is that they get a lot of many different alliances and small operators or companies that they get, you know, a small part of the spectrum, okay, in some small arenas. This is quite different from Europe, okay, very different from Europe, okay. And you get this Net America Alliance, which is trying to gather all these small operators or small companies together in order to get some fair prices, okay, and negotiate fair prices with vendors, okay, for deploying the network. And I said, and many others. You can try to have a look. I mean, there are many others. So that's good for the business. And America knows how to do business. To Canada, again, I was mentioning Rogers. Okay, so they started, of course, to launch their LTE commercial offer. Okay, but again, warning. I mean, the 700 megahertz band is still not auction. Okay, so maybe this year. Okay, so if you want to get a massive offer of LTE, especially with Canada, okay, with a large coverage, you need to wait for the auction bidding. Okay. Again, the offer, I mean, currently for the Rogers, you get a smartphone, okay, coming from Samsung, the MiFi from SERI Wireless. And again, I mean, Rogers in Canada, they can be very pragmatic, you know, guys, because this is an example of the HSPA Plus device. Okay, this is really a simple router, okay, with HSPA Plus, so which means the last mile is HSPA Plus, and that's it. Okay, they deploy that in Europe. Well, it's not something that could be really done, okay, with HSPA Plus in the band. Okay, but this is something that could be very interesting in Europe, okay, thanks to the digital dividend, again, because at 800 megahertz band, you know, you get a good coverage, even indoor coverage, so putting a small device, like a simple router with last mile in LTE 800s, well, this is something which is, that can be beneficial in terms of commercial deployment. So smartphone, because we discussed about that. LTE innovation centers, again, I mean, US is really driving the innovation. Okay, Verizon, okay, we got this innovation center, which is very interesting, okay, to invite you, I mean, to have a look there. We get this partnership where you can really, again, cooperate with infrastructure vendors or chipset manufacturers, okay, in order to make your device. Light Squared, we get also one innovation sandbox, okay, in Mountain View, California. AT&T, we get 3 AT&T Foundry innovation centers in Texas, Silicon Valley, and even Israel. And these are a couple of results from the Verizon LTE Innovation Center, and we'll recognize some use cases and scenarios there, like the LTE connected car. This is something which is quite well known. Okay, I mean, Alcatel presented that, I mean, I think 2 years ago in Mobile World Congress. Okay, so anyway, this is about telematics, infotainment. Okay, because in terms of telematics only, you don't need LTE, frankly speaking. Okay, this is quite a low load, but as soon as you go for infotainment, well, then you need LTE. Okay, for low delay latency, for instance. Or office in the box, so there, I mean, you could perfectly get a Femto inside, okay, no problem at all, or a joint Femto plus router, okay, some vendors, they are already proposing that, I mean, currently, in the roadmap. The connected home, like eHealth, for instance, the bicycle, so we come back to the transport, let's say, use case and scenarios, okay, sorry, and of course, the live edge TV, okay, or for the video streaming, for instance. The LTE patent issues, well, we get InterDigital here, so I'm sure we are very committed to that. So my key message here, I mean, as a device manufacturer, of course, this is critical constraint for the Femtocell or the CPE, okay? Because of course, when you want to devise a Femto, you get a price, okay, for the device itself, and it should be comparable somehow with a residential gateway. A residential gateway is quite cheap, okay, in terms of, again, home network, okay. As soon as you get for metro Femto, so outdoor, well, you can increase the price, okay. The capacity is bigger, you can increase the price because it's not the customer which is paying for it. Okay, so LTE royalty, the problem is that, well, it's quite fragmented. Okay, well, we can recognize like InterDigital, okay, as one of the major leader, okay, in the LTE royalty patent pool, Qualcomm, Nokia, Samsung, Ericsson, Motorola, Huawei, of course, ZTE. So the key message here, if you have a look on the right side, okay, these are the announced, let's say, kind of cap, okay, maximum level of royalties for each of the companies, okay, and if you gather all that together, it's already, you end up already like, well, around 15%, okay, of the royalties, which is part of the selling price of the device, okay, for the handset, okay. So that means there is a huge impact in terms of royalties on the LTE device, okay. So when, for instance, I want to get in board, I mean, an LTE chipset, okay, the impact on the bill of material for me, if I make a residential gateway or whatever, it can be up to 15% already, okay, because of the royalties, you know. And this is a major critical issue, okay, when you are not part of the big players here, okay. Of course, this is part of the business model for them, okay. They get IP, okay, that means they get, well, either they provide, okay, licenses, okay, or when they are doing their own product, okay, they get, of course, a lower royalty, okay. But for newcomers, okay, and especially for vendors, manufacturers, most of them, okay, they don't get IP or not as big as these guys, okay, because they are not as committed in industrialization, okay, this is not the same business, okay. So again, there is a huge impact on that, and this can kill really the business, okay. So LTE and 4G patent in general, well, I guess you have followed, okay, this huge battle, I mean, lately, okay, with Apple, Microsoft, okay, acquiring and part of Nortel, okay, more than 6,000 patents for the $5 billion, okay. So that means, I mean, I realized that my patents, I was not rewarded enough, okay, when I was doing my patents, okay. Or Google acquiring a Motorola Mobility, okay. Well, they said not only for the patents, but okay, mostly maybe, okay. Well, who's next? As I mentioned, InterDigital. I don't know, okay. But it could be fair enough. You get quite, I think, more than 8,000 or 10,000 patents. I mean, not only LTE, but I guess 3G and so on. How much?
19.
Oh, you see. Okay. Well, the point for me as a vendor, okay, as a manufacturer, is like, okay, that's really risk to kill the business because you need to find a deal, okay, within the contract, okay, to acquire the technology, okay. And even with that, even if you take a margin, okay, on the price, you're not even sure that you will be safe in terms of legal issues, you know. So yeah, this is something that needs to be taken into account, okay. So there are some people pushing for the patent pool, okay. So getting people around the table, okay, joining the patent pool and finding kind of compromise, okay. Well, I'm not a big believer in patent pool, frankly speaking, okay. What I can see so far when we are negotiating with the guys and chipset makers and so on, this is a good old, you know, school, you know, for the patent and royalties. So the business model, okay, within BeFEMTO and within the Femto arena in general, okay, you get the broadband everywhere, okay, where basically, as you could see, this is mostly connecting, okay, the house or the building, okay, with different services. You have services, location, of course, location-based services like shopping centers. My home moves with me, which means you get the configuration of the user, okay, which is moving with him, okay. Another important aspect I wanted to emphasize, this is a rich communication suite, okay, because Femto, we spoke about, okay, the voice, okay, and this is very important here for the operator, okay, but thanks to the Femto, we can really offer, of course, an end-to-end quality of service, okay, that means they really manage the whole network, okay, compared with the Wi-Fi offload, for instance, okay. That means they can really offer this, this huge, let's say, IMS, okay, RCS offer, okay, to their customer, thanks to the Femtocell, for instance. So this is another aspect which is differentiating from the Wi-Fi, for instance. But again, I mean, we need to interwork Wi-Fi and Femto, okay, of course, in terms of the offload. The mobile Femto, okay, this is one of the aspects which is discussed, okay, why not? Okay, I mean, besides the legal issue, because, I mean, of course, Femto is an access point, huh? So you need to get the operator, I mean, involved, okay? But currently, you get many access points with Wi-Fi, okay, with the public transport, and then you get, okay, a backhaul which is provided by WiMAX or satellite or even like fly-on technology for some countries, okay? So, I mean, backhaul, of course, I mean, in 3GPP, we already introduced this relay node, okay, with donor in node B. Okay, so backhaul is an issue, but you can solve it. Okay, it's not a big deal. So the deal is really about the added value of the femto, so getting a small, cheap access point within your public transport, like a bus or a train, okay, that can really, again, manage smartly with radio resource management, many different users, and ensure a good quality of service, okay, a good billing, again, good management for the operator, okay. So this is related definitely with intelligent transport system and infotainment with a car, for instance. Instead of getting just a terminal, okay, as it is for the timing, you can really manage a full network within the Femto, thanks to the Femto as a gateway, okay. So this is an example again of a box TGV in France, okay, with different many services and applications that are offered. And for the timing, this is a satellite backhaul, okay, which is quite expensive, okay. Well, you know. So business model, I mean, as I was mentioning very early with my presentation, okay, currently it's not that innovative, okay, what is deployed in terms of commercial offers. But in BeFEMTO, we identify, let's say, mostly four business cases, like the one-off fee, like the user pays €50 once, and the monthly payment does not change at all. You get the no fee, so you're not paying anything for the Femto itself, okay, and this is part, the commercial offer is part of your mobile payment, your mobile fee, okay, or you get a decrease. So it's more attractive, I would say. You get a decrease because of the offload. Okay, you are offloading the radio part. Okay, thanks to the Femto, and you're also offloading the core network. Okay, because of course the backhaul is going to the ISP. Okay, so the IP provider. Okay, the internet service provider, and it's not the backhaul from the mobile operator. Okay, well, at least this is one of the possibilities, because I mean currently we can see that most of the commercial deployments, okay, you get the operator is both a mobile operator, okay, and also an ISP provider, okay, so there is a package, let's say. But ultimately, I mean, in terms of commercial offer, it could be the case of relying on an ISP provider which is not at all related with the mobile operator, okay. So anyway, the point is to attract, okay, or to give a reward to the user, saying, okay, you are offloading my traffic from the radio part, for thanks for that, and you're also potentially offloading the traffic from my backhaul, so thanks again, and I give you a decrease, okay, on your fees thanks to that, okay, which is not done, I mean, so far. And increase, okay, so which means you don't have to pay for the device itself, but of course you need to pay an additional fee, kind of additional service. Okay, you got your usual mobile plus the Femto. Okay, and these are the current, let's say, offers. Not all of them. Okay, but from 1 year ago, I think. Okay, worldwide. Okay, but anyway, these are the four identified major business case, and what we could identify in BeFEMTO, I mean, there are many studies, I mean, that have been done, I mean, BeFEMTO in terms of, well, simulations, okay, trying to investigate the impact of this technology, like Metro Femto or mobile Femto, and what is the impact on the return of investment. So basically the profit and loss, okay, to see if it was fast enough, okay. And clearly what we could check from that is that rolling out outdoor and mobile Femto is clearly beneficial, okay, for the operator, and we can understand that. I mean, outdoor Femto, I mean, this is quite cheap, okay, in terms of technology, okay, or Metro Femto or small cell, this is quite cheap compared with Pico or Macro, okay, and that means you can get more users if you need more investment in terms of capex, okay, for your network, because you get, of course, an evolution of number of users. Well, you can still rely on this cheap technology, okay, and deploy it instead of deploying huge macro, which are very expensive. Okay, you can rely on that, and of course, this is a very fast return on investment. Okay, and mobile Femto, well, the same, definitely. It's always beneficial. It's not hugely beneficial because, of course, it depends on the introduction, okay, of the mobile Femto within the country. But still, this is always beneficial. So again, this is just to show again that the benefit, you get a faster profit and loss, the return of investment basically, by introducing Metro and outdoor Femtocell plus mobile Femto. And in this case, we did not yet introduce residential or corporate Femto. Okay, just to show that, okay, outdoor Femto with open access, for instance, is already quite a fast return of investment. And of course, when we start introducing residential or corporate, well, it's even faster. Okay. So in all cases, depending on the commercial offer, if you pay the femto, if you don't pay the femto, if you get an increased fee or whatever, okay, you can play with all the parameters you want. At the end of the day, it's always beneficial for the operator, okay, compared with getting a usual classical cellular network, okay. But you can find all the details in the reports. So far in BeFEMTO, we provided already 13 public deliverables available, okay. So lately we delivered, I think 6 more deliverables that were released at the end of December. Okay, so I would like to encourage you, to have a look on that. They are available on the public website since this week or last week. Okay, it took us quite a while, to put that. We are quite busy. Okay, but as you can see, they are addressing a lot of different technologies like RRM, access control, even testbed. And we even released, just for bonus, I would say, another report on the interference and radio management techniques. So the system architecture, just to say very briefly, but our approach in BeFEMTO is always really to stick to the standardization. Okay, to stick does not mean that we are follower. Okay, in that sense. Okay, we want to be ahead of the schedule, of course. But all the guys from the industry are always paying attention, okay, that all the solutions can be provided in 3GPP standardization without a big effort. Okay, there are always this kind of adaptation, okay, and the NEC is doing a great work on that, to ensure the consistency of the architecture. So what is beyond femtocell? Okay, so the challenges for what we call the small intelligent cross-cell networks, okay, the 6 technology. We emphasize, I think, initially that the increase in data traffic is definitely not uniform. Okay, so it depends on the geography. Okay, so different part of the world. Okay, depend on the subscribers. It depends on the subscriber behavior. It depends on the devices type. Okay, with smartphones, tablets, etc., etc. The location also. Okay, depending if you are at home, on the go, in the store, a restaurant, work, social gathering, whatever. Okay, as you could see, a lot of them actually are indoor. Actually, a lot of use of your communications, okay, are indoor. Okay, so this is something that needs to take really into account. Okay, frankly speaking, the same. Okay, diversity in terms of applications. Okay, I emphasize that a lot. Okay, initially at the early stage of the presentation. Okay, and time of the day. Okay, definitely. And all that together means that we need to draw some key conclusions from that. Okay, of course, the growth of the data traffic is already mentioned a lot. Okay, what is important here? This is a large variations of the total mobile traffic, both in terms of time and space of the traffic. Okay, so that means in terms of provisioning the cells, in terms of backhaul, but also provisioning the cell in terms of radio access. Okay, you need to take that into account that the traffic is really varying a lot. Okay, between without doing any statistics, okay, between the mean or the peak, okay, traffic demand, okay, it will vary a lot, which means the cell itself needs to be very flexible in terms of radio access, okay. So being small cell means that you can really embrace this flexibility, okay, of the traffic demand, depending on the day, but depending also on the behavior of the user or the device, okay. And the second point is this uneven traffic distribution that I was speaking, and the continuity of service to the customer. So the continuity, seamless offload, for instance, or this kind of smart offload management is something critical. Okay, currently it's not really addressed. We'll see that very briefly. Okay, so people moving from small cell to small cell in terms of cellular or Wi-Fi. Okay, it needs to be really transparent for the user. Okay, so this is something everybody is saying. Okay, and it's not really addressed today. Okay, even the voice. Okay, we mentioned the CS fallback. Okay, at some point. Okay, where CS fallback is really a handover on 3G or 2G. Okay, so when you are doing a browsing or data traffic, well, you can expect some disruptive things on your traffic. Okay, so it will work. Okay, but don't expect to be transparent. Okay, something will happen. Okay. So this is part of it. Okay, you need to be really seamless. Okay, in terms of offload or in terms of handover between, among the different RAT. Okay, basically. So these are the most challenging things from the operator point of view. So, of course, not everything is done. Okay, this is what I mentioned here. So this is just a kind of priority list. Okay, coming from Cisco, from the standpoint of from the operator. Okay, what are the priorities for them? So integration and handover, as I was mentioning, with 2G or 3G, or even Wi-Fi, okay, for some of them. Okay, this is one of the priority. Interoperability, of course. Okay, implementing quality of service functions, okay, especially the end-to-end one, the PCRF, okay, the policy charging and control function, dimensioning for capacity, control plane scalability, security, and of course, integration with the service layer, okay. So definitely there are still a lot of innovations, activities, okay, to be done, okay, so thanks a lot for that, okay, so I guess all the researchers are very happy with that. So the EPC interface with Wi-Fi, for instance, okay, this is clearly not sufficient at this stage. I will briefly discuss that in a couple of slides. Okay, so end-to-end quality of service for the LTE. Okay, we have to bear in mind, you know, I know that people coming from the radio access or people coming from the, from the network side, well, I think they need to get a bit more bigger picture. Okay, of course, the air interface is highly time sensitive. Okay, the air interface, you get the backhaul fluctuations as well, last mile, but you get the aggregation as well. Okay, and of course you get the the PCRF, so the quality of service. Okay, that needs to be addressed. So at the end of the day, again, this is an end-to-end scheme that we need to emphasize. Okay, so and this is not easy. Okay, so we need to increase, of course, the robustness of the backhaul. Okay, in terms of heterogeneity and variability, we need to ensure that the quality of service policies are more coordinated with the air interface scheduling. Okay, and how to address and handle multiple quality of service mapping from the IP flow management. And no need to mention again, this Iterative end-to-end quality of service is definitely not something very easy. Okay, so the zone features, self-organizing network features, I guess you will get a lot of talk about that, I mean, this week. Of course, this is something, again, critical for a small cell and femto and next generation. Okay, so this was just a summary of what happened in 3GPP. Okay, like release 8 just focusing, let's say, on the plug-and-play part, okay, because this was the priority, okay, to deploy networks, okay, initially. And release 9, well, you get a bit more, they could brief a little bit more in terms of standardization, so you can start studying a bit more the optimization, okay, in terms of the zone, okay, so the self-healing aspect. And definitely release 10 is embracing a bit more this overall optimization, okay, with the zone. And release 11 will, of course, carry on with that. Okay, so there are a lot of things very interesting in release 10 and 11 which are being addressed, okay? And this is quite, let's say, quite a critical aspect and very beneficial aspect of the LTE network, especially with the small cell. The fixed mobile convergence, okay, this is something definitely happening, okay, in terms of 3G Wi-Fi, but not only, okay, we need to bear in mind also the fixed, okay, the wide access, okay, like ADSL or FTTH, okay, you need to take that into account, okay, especially for the facility of the deployment, okay, so with small cell, okay, in terms of backhaul, okay, so the fixed operator driven, okay, in terms of backhaul options, okay, I mean, currently you get a lot of, well, the femto are mostly residential, so you get ADSL, okay, mostly a bit of FTTH, okay, in Asia, okay, but as soon as you want to go for the small cell, okay, this would be the key to be addressed. Okay, how to deploy? I mean, the fixed part. How to deploy the backhaul? Is it fixed? Is it microwave as usual in the 60 gigahertz band, or is it something else? Okay, and many operators get concerned about that. Okay, how to deploy easily? Okay, this small cell. Okay, so technology from small cell coming from the femto arena, let's say, you know. This is something that will facilitate this deployment. Okay, small cell, you get technology coming from the bottom-up approach, or let's say the top-down. Okay, so bottom-up is mostly technology relying on the femto. Okay, and the top-down is mostly coming from the pico and macro, and this is quite a different perspective and approach. Okay, in terms of strategy and technology itself. So the backhaul options, yeah. So backhaul is really something important. So we'll skip that. Okay, the wireless LAN interworking. Okay, we are speaking about that. It's interworking Wi-Fi and cellular, but I guess you get more discussion about that this afternoon. Okay, so the current, let's say the current release 6 is not sufficient, but we get more detail about that this afternoon. There are many activities in 3GPP trying to address this interworking, like network discovery or IP flow management. Okay, and this is most important. This is a roadmap from the Wireless Mobile Alliance. Okay. Which is, of course, definitely a carrier Wi-Fi alliance. And they are addressing, of course, as a priority, the roaming, okay, of carrier Wi-Fi, because this is something that will get a lot of money from that in terms of facilitate the deployment. But they are also addressing this cross-technology interoperability, okay? So how to interoperate or interwork with Wi-Fi, I mean, of course, Wi-Fi, I mean, between Wi-Fi, WiMAX on LTE, or even fixed access, okay? And this is part of the small intelligent cross-cell roadmap. The same from the Wi-Fi Alliance, okay, we get this program about the Hotspot 2.0, okay, to facilitate, again, to get the Wi-Fi, carrier Wi-Fi more attractive, let's say, and basically to get the Wi-Fi more cellular, I would say. Okay, so basically we want to gather some standards that are already existing, okay, and to end up with a profile that can be deployed and accepted by many, okay. And this will facilitate the discovery of the network, authentication, and so on. Okay, so we get the details about the technology here. The backhaul for the LTE and small cell, this is really something which has been addressed very lately in the NGMN, okay, next generation mobile network. Okay, there is a very interesting paper, white paper there. Okay, so this is a schematic, let's say a classical schematic about the backhaul. Okay, as I was mentioning, is it microwave, fiber, or copper, or whatever? Okay, and especially in terms of traffic volume, I mean the X2 interface for the LTE. I mean currently on average it's estimated about 4 to 10% of the S1 traffic, and but we can expect that with smaller cell, this traffic might increase slightly. Okay, because of the handover. Okay, mostly, but we get also IC, of course, signaling. Okay, but mostly handover. IPsec, which is definitely a keystone in terms of technology for Femto, because this is untrusted, so you need to get an IPsec there. You get an increase of 14% on average, okay, for the traffic. So you need to take that into account for, again, the provisioning, depending again on the technology that you are using for the architecture or the deployment for the small cell. But if you want a bottom-up approach, so relying on the Femto approach for the small cell, you need IPsec, okay, securization. So the wireless backhaul, again, there are a lot of research, even by operators like BT, okay, that are trying to investigate like TV white space for the backhaul, or especially for getting a non-line of sight backhaul, wireless backhaul, okay, because of course it will facilitate deployment of small cell. Okay, you don't need to be on line of sight like the microwave, okay. So non-line of sight, especially for the mall, for instance, okay, it's quite interesting. And of course, backhaul in the TV white space, it's even more interesting because you don't need to pay for that, okay? But of course, you get some problem because somebody is already there, okay, the broadcaster, okay? But FCC in the US and Ofcom in UK, well, they are already paving the way to using TV white space for such kind of communications, okay? So this is here, I mean, again, some simulation from BT, how to use LTE in TV white space, for instance. So the quality of service challenging, I already mentioned that. Vertical market in LTE, so I just wanted to end up with that because, again, I was mentioning initially that Femto are just a part of the bigger picture, okay? So Femto is really, can play a key role in machine-to-machine communications as well, okay? Residential or even outdoor, okay? So the vertical market in LTE is basically machine-to-machine, vertical market, of course, are the priority to get energy and utilities, health and transportation, okay? So I will skip this one. Okay, this is something which is already happening. I mean, in Texas, you get this company, Texas Energy Network, but get some spectrum, okay, for deploying LTE networks. Okay, of course, for oil companies, Texas. I thought it was also worth mentioning VTL, okay, in the US. Okay, you get this plan in the US, okay, to get some bands, okay, but again, you get some constraint here for the customer. This is really for providing a service for the smart metering here, relying on the LTE. In Australia, we get Energy Australia, okay, which intends to deploy again, I mean, an LTE network for smart metering and smart grid. So this is the architecture for machine-to-machine, usual one. It's always the same. On the right side, you get capillary network, so Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Bluetooth, whatever you can, wireless HART, okay. ISA 100, whatever you want, okay? At the end of the day, you always get a capillary, and you get a kind of gateway or aggregator of traffic, okay? And this gateway is going to WAN, okay? So it can be a satellite, it can be a cellular, like 3G or LTE, WiMAX, okay? Or even a grid, okay? Like power line communication, for instance, and you end up with a cloud, let's say, a cloud application or services, okay? And definitely here, the Femto can be one of the gateway, okay? One of the access points, okay? So the machine-type communication, the name indicates in 3GPP, okay? This is something which is just happening right now, okay? This is really slow motion, I would say. But they are addressing nowadays how to evaluate, like evaluation methodology, such kind of things, okay? In WiMAX, you also get the complementary approach, I would say. But M2M ecosystem is really a jungle, no need to mention that. Okay, this is a picture from Orange. Okay, this is really a mess. Okay, so there is a large effort actually how to coordinate all these actions. Okay, nobody wants to reinvent the wheel. Okay, but everybody wants to get the benefit. Okay, so I mean ETSI M2M, I mean ETSI Technical Committee M2M. I think they had the right approach 2 years ago. It took quite some time to take off. Okay, but InterDigital are very committed to that, so we can mention a couple of points if they want. Okay, now I think we get to quite a fair results, I would say, and a fair approach, which is okay. We are not addressing the physical layer or the pure transport architecture. Okay, we are trying to liaison with many organizations, okay, worldwide, and we try to focus on the API and functionalities, okay, for the machine-to-machine. Okay, and currently there is these discussions, which are worldwide level, okay, to potentially end up with kind of a partnership like the 3GPP, which is a partnership between all the industry, I mean, main industry standard, okay, to get the same approach with the machine-to-machine, okay. So this is at the ITU level, okay, and we had this discussion actually in Houston end of last year with InterDigital and Numerex, because Numerex CTO is driving somehow, okay, this kind of activities as well. So basically, instead of the 3GPP, you might get also kind of M2M PP, okay, partnership. So conclusion and way forward, okay, I will try to skip. Okay, so in terms of BeFEMTO, small cell or self-cross cell, or self-organizing cells, okay, BeFEMTO we get, as I mentioned, more than 4 complementary testbed. Okay, we might end up with like 6, okay, testbed for really reinforcing the real-world proof of concept capabilities. Well, in terms of innovations, protocols, and algorithms, well, you will see the whole week much more details, hopefully, okay, and you will see that these guys are very smart and innovative, okay. Key partners, I think I definitely demonstrated that the key partners, industry, and so on, are very committed to the femto business and the small cell business and standardizations. We already managed 3 international workshops, you know, as you could see, 1 summer school last year, well, this year, winter school, hopefully. Panel session, PRMRC, 2 journal special issues, and we released, again, last week, like 6 more public deliverables. And way forward, okay, well, I do believe that further investment, R&D standardization are needed definitely to prepare the next phase, which is the 5G, okay, we speak about next generation, what is beyond LTE, which is really the 5G, but also benefiting to the 3G and 4G deployments. This is really what's happening usually, like HSPA plus benefiting from the LTE, or even networks. There is always a benefit, okay? And particular aspect that should be taken on the smooth and seamless small cell Wi-Fi, okay, interworking and integration also, okay? The new rules for the spectrum use, okay, definitely there is a big need for innovation there, especially in Europe, okay? Enhancing the backhaul, definitely, okay? I mean, TV white space or non-line of sight, or even 60 gigahertz, okay, you can find quite a lot of innovation like roaming and beamforming, for instance. And at the end of the day, this is better integration in terms of use case and scenario, in terms of innovation, like machine-to-machine, Internet of Things, or device-to-device communication. I think that's it for my part.
Thank you, Thierry, for this race through the past 5-10 years of femtocell developments on industrial scale. Now, we are a bit tight on time, really. We are actually live broadcasting, so I need to stick to the timelines we have outlined. Now, I'm able to take 1 or 2 questions, but before I take from the audience, there was one person who tweeted a question actually to you whilst you talk about the patents, and I think it was to you as an innovation manager. So he asked whether you think this 20 years patent rule is good or bad for innovation. You know, because in the sense, I think, in the sense that, you know, if you keep patents, you know, some innovation locked for 20 years, does it help the stimulus of building new things, or does it rather, you know, slow it down?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a good question, definitely. Okay, from my standpoint, let's say, yeah, from my standpoint, let's say, that's not the major blocking point, okay, for me as a vendor. Okay, frankly speaking, as I mentioned, okay, these 20 years rules, I mean, that's not what is blocking, let's say, blocking or let's say slowing down, okay, the company, okay, to address new technologies. Okay, what is slowing down, let's say, this is first to ensure that we get FRAND, okay, the FRAND rules, Okay, so I think lately there are a lot of discussion between the European Commission and Samsung, okay, to know if they are following the FRAND rules from the ETSI. Okay, so FRAND, which is fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory, rules for essential patents in the standard. This is the first good point for us. Okay, but at the end of the day, it seems it's not sufficient to solve the cross-licensing issues of the patents, which means even if you get FRAND rules, even if you can see, and will get access to all the database of essential patents, okay, which is now I think more than 4,000 patents for LTE at least, okay. It does not still solve the problem. Like if I buy a chip from one manufacturer, okay, like Qualcomm, whatever, but get a lot of patents, I'm not sure that I will not be sued, okay, by somebody else, okay, by using this chipset, which is relying on this technology. You see. So I think the problem is cross-licensing as well, okay? Because you are never sure that you cannot get go in court because of the technology that you are embedding within your device. You know, so the guy like Qualcomm or whatever, they get some patent policies or licensing policy that they will add a kind of safety measure, okay, on the price, just in case that you are sued, okay, by the company. So there are a lot of discussions around it. There are many different licensing approach, depending on the. I mentioned Qualcomm like this. I mean, it's not. I'm not pointing out. Okay. So again, this 20 years rules is not what is blocking, at least, you know, manufacturers from getting access to the technology. Okay. You know, I think the thing is a big war. We know that there is a big war, and that you can be sued, okay, because you are embedding the technology. Even though you get a contract with the chipset manufacturer, okay, which is quite fair. You know, somebody else can still say, okay, look, you don't pay any license to me. Okay, or something like that.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions before the coffee break? If not, Thierry is around, so still for a while. I think you need to leave around midday today.
Yeah, just after lunch. Yeah.
So just catch him. Rare opportunity, really, to have somebody from the CTO office of Sagemcom with us. So try to catch him in the coffee break. We have now 10 to 15 minutes coffee break, and we are back around 11ish for your talk. All right. Thank you very much, Thierry.
Yeah, thanks.